Welcome, comrades, to the art of cinema. Sir, the people often write into the show asking what it's like to be the architect of the revolution. They wonder what it's like to be our glorious leader, General Secretary F. So let's begin the show today by giving them a glimpse behind closed doors, as it were. How does it feel to be the one who wields the chisel of atrocity to sculpt a utopia out of the formless stone that is PRF's society?
It's a fair question, and I can see why the unwashed masses would wonder what it's like to be me, their glorious leader, General Secretary F. For my thoughts are not the people's thoughts, neither are the people's ways like unto my ways. If I can answer their question in a word, Colonel T, that word would be vindication. As I continue to engineer the progress of the revolution, my far-sighted, ultra-modern ideology is only further vindicated, and my enemies are put to shame. The people's hearts overflow with joy and celebration as I, their glorious leader, General Secretary F, deliver them to the promised utopia. You know, just today, all across the People's Republic of F, officials have found themselves unable to contain the unprompted mass demonstrations as our workers and our farmers and soldiers burst forth out of factories and offices, marching in parades of spontaneous, delirious celebration through our streets. As they processed before the cheering crowds, the people's songs and banners bore witness to their gratitude to me, their glorious leader, General Secretary F, for the fulfilling utopian lives that my wise leadership has bestowed upon them.
Indeed, sir. Our glorious leader is like the sun. Stray too far and you'll freeze, but get too close and you'll be incinerated. So it's important that we continue with the people's re-education, so that they're not left behind in confusion as you deliver them from their once backwards and regressive ways.
That's right. On this show, The Art of Cinema, we use popular American movies as a venue for the people's re-education. Indoctrination should be fun, you know? There's no reason why our official state brainwashing can't also be entertaining. So for today's session, I've chosen the 1994 film Clear and Present Danger to help guide the citizens of the PRF away from dangerous wrongthink. Clear and Present Danger is an adaptation of a novel by Tom Clancy. Let's dive right in, Colonel T. How does the story begin?
Well, at the start of the film, the U.S. Coast Guard finds a large American yacht in the Caribbean Sea. The yacht is not where it's supposed to be, so the U.S. Coast Guard boards the ship. The yacht is out of Mobile, Alabama, but the men on board aren't from Alabama. They're Colombian drug runners, and they've killed the American couple who owned the yacht, along with their children, and thrown the bodies overboard.
So a Colombian cartel has killed an American who owns a yacht. And who owns a yacht in the United States?
That would be the bourgeoisie, sir. The bourgeoisie own all the yachts in America, but the proletariat own none of the yachts.
That's right. So as we watch the Colombian cartel kill this American yacht owner, it raises an interesting ethical question, Colonel T. If you could emancipate 1 million proletarian workers, but you had to kill one member of the bourgeoisie elite to do it, would that be right?
That's an easy question, sir, because you've addressed it in your manifesto. Not only would it be right to kill one of the bourgeoisie to emancipate 1 million proletarian workers, it would be right to kill 1 million bourgeoisie to emancipate one proletarian worker.
That's correct, Colonel. Well done. These are the stakes, people. Our enemies are formidable, and our struggle is arduous.
The family that owned the yacht were the Hardins, and the murder of the Hardins comes to the attention of the CIA, specifically the Office of the Deputy Director of Intelligence of the CIA, which is run by James Earl Jones. Harrison Ford works for James Earl Jones there at the CIA. So it's a Star Wars reunion, James Earl Jones and Harrison Ford. Darth Vader is the Deputy Director of Intelligence of the CIA, and Han Solo works for him there. It really should have been Alec Baldwin playing the Harrison Ford role, since Clear and Present Danger is a sort of sequel to The Hunt for Red October in the Tom Clancy movie franchise, and it was Alec Baldwin playing Jack Ryan in The Hunt for Red October. Maybe they couldn't get Alec Baldwin to play Jack Ryan this time because he was in trouble for shooting some of his co-workers to death. In any case, want to guess who the American president is in this movie?
Is it Dan Aykroyd? He was the U.S. president when we reviewed My Fellow Americans.
No, Dan Aykroyd must have lost the next election, Because the American president is now Donald Moffat.
I see. Donald Moffat has supplanted Dan Aykroyd as the American president. Donald Moffat better enjoy his time as president, because after his time in office is done, he's going to get a job at a research station in Antarctica where he ends up getting killed by the Thing in John Carpenter's movie.
Actually, sir, Donald Moffat starred in The Thing in 1982, 12 years before Clear and Present Danger. So it's actually not Donald Moffat at all in this movie. It's actually John Carpenter's The Thing having assimilated Donald Moffat, which means that John Carpenter's The Thing has been elected President of the United States.
Oh, I see. So President John Carpenter's The Thing must have assimilated just about everyone in D.C. by now.
Right. That explains a lot about the United States. Anyway, Harrison Ford reports the Colombian cartel's commandeering of the yacht to President John Carpenter's The Thing, and it turns out that Peter Hardin, the owner of the yacht, was a friend of the president's. So this personalizes the war on drugs for the American president. He's very angry and feels powerless before the Colombian cartels, despite being the world's most powerful capitalist imperialist. President John Carpenter's The Thing confides in his national security advisor that the course of action he'd suggest in response to the murder of his friend by the Colombian cartel is a course of action he can't suggest. So the national security advisor says, "I'm not sure where that leaves us," to which President The Thing replies, "These drug cartels represent a clear and present danger to the national security of the United States." The president effectively tells his national security advisor that a war on the cartels is in order, but this war will be illegal and will have to be conducted secretly.
Interesting. So the American president uses the clear and present danger precedent to justify a covert war against the Colombian drug cartels. This actually doesn't make a lot of sense, because the clear and present danger standard is actually a First Amendment issue in the American courts.
A First Amendment?
Yeah, see, in the U.S., the people are legally allowed to say pretty much anything they want, which is a big part of the reason why progress towards the atrocitarian revolution is so slow there. It's not like here in the PRF, where people's speech must be monitored and preemptively corrected so that the party can filter out any counter-revolutionary tendencies.
I see. But in this case, President John Carpenter's The Thing misuses the clear and present danger concept to justify a black ops operation against the Colombian cartels.
Right. I always laugh when I see the hoops that these American politicians have to jump through to try to get things done. Look, every government craves absolute totalitarian control of its people. Every government realizes that dictatorship is the only way to get things done with any efficiency. So the Americans might as well just be honest about it and submit to the People's Republic of F. They can become one of our vassal states voluntarily, or wait until we conquer them. The choice is yours, Americans.
Next, we visit the Colombian hacienda of Miguel Sandoval, who runs the cartel in question, the Cali cartel. Miguel Sandoval has his own intelligence officer, Joaquin de Almeida, hired away from Fidel Castro's government in Cuba. So Joaquin de Almeida is to the Cali cartel what Harrison Ford is to the CIA in this movie. They're both intelligence analysts, the sort of people who study the information collected through spies and satellites and other intelligence operations. Miguel Sandoval, the cartel boss, tells Joaquin de Almeida that he had the Hardins killed on their yacht because the cartel had hired Peter Hardin to launder their drug profits, but Hardin had been skimming off the top of this money laundering operation to the tune of more than $650 million. Joaquin de Almeida tells Miguel Sandoval that killing the Hardins was a risky, reckless move, but the cartel boss thinks the Americans can't touch him. He says, "What are they going to do? Arrest me?"
Oh, sure. Yeah, I know how he feels. No one's going to arrest me either.
Harrison Ford is married to Anne Archer in Clear and Present Danger. She plays a surgeon.
Sure, Anne Archer. You know, speaking of the path to utopia, besides being a surgeon and married to Harrison Ford in Clear and Present Danger, Anne Archer is a Scientologist. Her son, Tommy Davis, was once head of external affairs and chief spokesman for Scientology.
So he was the Colonel T of Scientology.
Yeah, you could say that. He was like their minister of propaganda. It was his job to get into screaming matches with journalists. Anyway, you know how England is a constitutional monarchy?
Yes, sir. They have the king, who's the head of the Church of England, and then he governs alongside the Prime Minister and the Parliament.
Right. Well, interesting about that. When I was founding the People's Republic of F, I considered making our nation into an atrocitarian monarchy. I would have been the head of the Church of Scientology and one-man government as well. To become head of the Church of Scientology, though, I would have had to start by winning their Freedom Medal of Valor. But Tom Cruise beat me to it and won the Freedom Medal of Valor before I did in 2004. So instead of doing a church-state setup, I simplified.
Yes, sir. You made the government of the PRF into a religion in its own right. You are the object of worship, and your manifesto is our Bible.
Yeah, that's right. Still, I sometimes think about what might have been, because Scientology is such an effective way to brainwash and control people. Let me tell you, Scientologists, if you joined forces with the PRF instead of with Tom Cruise, we could have made you unstoppable.
James Earl Jones is diagnosed with advanced pancreatic cancer, so he appoints Harrison Ford as acting deputy director of intelligence of the CIA while he's hospitalized. But Harrison Ford is in over his head here. He's assigned to work with Henry Czerny, who's in league with the national security advisor that President John Carpenter's The Thing has enlisted to conduct the covert war against the Cali cartel. And it's clear from the start that Henry Czerny intends to keep Harrison Ford in the dark about this black ops operation. The national security advisor and his liaison, Henry Czerny, are calling the black ops war against the Cali cartel reciprocity. Henry Czerny goes to Colombia to hire Willem Dafoe to run Reciprocity. Willem Dafoe plays Jack Clark, who's a sort of ninja super soldier spy character in Tom Clancy's novels. He's almost a superhero. So Willem Dafoe asks Henry Czerny for 12 Spanish-speaking special ops soldiers that he can lead to conduct the Reciprocity campaign against the Cali cartel. He wants Army Ranger and Navy SEAL types. So this will be a good test for your skills as our glorious leader, sir. As our glorious leader, it's your job to predict things, such as when and how different countries will take up the revolution, overthrow their capitalist imperialist overlords, and forge ahead towards the enlightened state of atrocitarianism. Let's test your powers of prophecy, then. If Willem Dafoe were to assemble a squad of Spanish-speaking Special Forces soldiers for a covert war against the Cali drug cartel, who do you think he would choose?
Well, let's see. I'll predict that, more than anybody else, Willem Dafoe would want Tuco Salamanca from Breaking Bad and his covert band of soldiers.
That's absolutely correct, sir. Once again, you've demonstrated to the people why you, and only you, are the brilliant genius of humanity and the great architect of atrocitarianism. So Willem Dafoe, Tuco Salamanca, and the rest of the Special Forces team begin their Black Ops war on the Cali drug cartel in the Colombian jungle. They start to sabotage their cocaine trade. The U.S. soldiers blow up planes that are loaded with drugs for transport to the U.S. They destroy an underground cocaine manufacturing facility hidden deep in the Colombian jungle. Miguel Sandoval, the cartel boss, demands that his intelligence officer, Joaquin de Almeida, find out who is sabotaging the cartel. But Joaquin de Almeida sees an opportunity to double-cross Miguel Sandoval at this point. The American president sends Harrison Ford to Colombia so he can get Harrison Ford to prove that Peter Hardin was working for the Cali cartel. Remember, Peter Hardin was the bourgeois yacht owner killed at the start of the film. That's what got all this started. Once Harrison Ford has proved that Peter Hardin was laundering money for the cartel, the U.S. government will be able to seize the $650 million from the Hardin's accounts. The seizure of this money will put real pressure on the cartel and show the U.S. public a win in their war on drugs.
So the U.S. government is going to seize this cartel drug money, just like the American bourgeoisie has seized the means of economic production of their country.
So Harrison Ford travels to Colombia. You know, sir, the American filmmakers go out of their way to portray Colombia as a third world country in the film. They make the U.S. look like the promised land, but Colombia looks like a barren desert.
Well, of course. These are American filmmakers. Their corrupt government compels them to portray American capitalism as though it's not an obscene travesty keeping the people in chains while they yearn for a glorious leader not unlike myself to emancipate them.
Indeed, sir. But James Earl Jones has told Harrison Ford to contact Willem Dafoe when he gets to Colombia. Willem Dafoe, as you'll recall, is coordinating the covert military operation, Reciprocity, against the cartel. So Willem Dafoe thinks that Harrison Ford is one of the bureaucrats who authorized the Reciprocity Black Ops team, but Harrison Ford doesn't know about Reciprocity at this point. Harrison Ford wins Willem Dafoe's trust when he tells him he works for James Earl Jones, a man Willem Dafoe greatly respects. Harrison Ford having gained Willem Dafoe's trust, then, Willem Dafoe tells Harrison Ford to investigate the Lindo Coffee Company. Lindo Coffee is one of the front companies the Cali cartel has been using to launder its drug money. Somehow, Willem Dafoe knows this, since he's Tom Clancy's ninja super soldier spy character. Joaquin de Almeida, the spy and intelligence officer working for the Cali cartel, is having an affair with a secretary who works for the same department of the CIA that Harrison Ford does. He's able to use her to learn that the American government will have officials in Colombia to seize the laundered drug money that Hardin stole. So Joaquin de Almeida has Harrison Ford and the other U.S. officials ambushed in a motorcade and kills most of them. Joaquin de Almeida has played the situation so that it looks to the U.S. like the Cali cartel ordered the hit on the motorcade in Colombia, but he tells Miguel Sandoval, the head of the Cali cartel, that it was one of the other cartels that ordered the hit, and that they're trying to pin it on Miguel Sandoval.
Yeah, I know how Miguel Sandoval feels. His disloyal servant, Joaquin de Almeida, has essentially perpetrated a false flag operation to provide a counterfeit reason for both the U.S. government and the other cartels to take up arms against him. That's right out of the U.S. military's playbook. How many times have the Americans pulled stunts like that with us? They know that if they can't defeat us in war, our superior ideology will overwhelm them. As the rest of the world sees the boundless joy of PRF citizens who keep unceasing festival as they behold the ineffable beauty of my countenance, the farce of the capitalist imperialist system will simply collapse under the weight of its own self-contradictions.
The U.S. President, John Carpenter's The Thing, tells his national security advisor that the gloves come off after the American officials are killed in Colombia. All the cartel bosses meet at Miguel Sandoval's hacienda to discuss who might have ordered the hit on the U.S. motorcade. The Special Forces team learns about this meeting, and Tuco Salamanca aims a laser at the property to direct a laser-guided bomb launched from an F-18. The hacienda is destroyed along with the leaders of the other cartels, but Miguel Sandoval and Joaquin de Almeida survive the explosion. So now, both Harrison Ford and his Cali cartel equivalent, Joaquin de Almeida, are trying to figure out who bombed Miguel Sandoval's hacienda. They're both intelligence analysts, and they determine that the explosion could only have been caused by American military ordnance. So Joaquin de Almeida contacts the U.S. National Security Advisor to arrange a meeting. He tells him that he's planning to kill Miguel Sandoval and take over the Cali cartel. Once he's in charge, he'll reduce cocaine shipments to the U.S. by half and give the U.S. police information that will allow them to arrest dealers and score political points by appearing to have largely succeeded in their war on drugs. In exchange, Joaquin de Almeida needs a victory of his own. He asks the National Security Advisor to cut off communication with the American soldiers that are conducting covert operations there in Colombia. Almeida wants maps of their location so he can find and capture them. The National Security Advisor goes for it and betrays Tuco Salamanca and the other soldiers to the cartel. They're going to leave the troops to die in Colombia and cover up the whole fiasco.
That's a clever plan by Joaquin de Almeida to take control of the Cali cartel. I've had to banish a lot of schemers like him to the People's Democratic Arctic labor camps because they're always planning to oust me and take my place as General Secretary and glorious leader. That's why we have to monitor the citizens of the PRF so closely, Colonel T. That's why there are hidden microphones and cameras in every room of the people's housing compounds and along every street and in every car and workplace. Whenever one of these Joaquin de Almeida types starts to question the party, we've got to nip it in the bud immediately. So I'd say Miguel Sandoval has only himself to blame here if Joaquin de Almeida manages to take over his cartel. He should have seen this plan coming from a mile away.
American spies record the National Security Advisor's meeting with Joaquin de Almeida, however, and Harrison Ford finds out about it. So now, Harrison Ford knows about the illegal war that the U.S. President, the National Security Advisor, and Henry Czerny, his colleague at the CIA, have been conducting. But the National Security Advisor and Henry Czerny have covered their tracks and will be able to pin the scandal on Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford confides in his wife, Ann Archer. He tells her about the mess he's in. Harrison Ford feels trapped, you see, sir. The corrupt American government is about to get away with a covert war, and he's going to take the fall for it.
Does Ann Archer tell Harrison Ford that the answer is Scientology's bridge to total freedom?
They must have cut that part out of the scenes, sir, because in fact, there's no mention of Harrison Ford having to rid himself of body thetans.
Well, all I can say is to reiterate what a mistake Scientology made when they chose Tom Cruise as their mascot instead of aligning themselves to the PRF and joining with me. I would have explained to the Scientologists that it's the body thetans who deceive us into accepting capitalist imperialist ideology. The Scientological spiritual life would then have helped inspire the people along the path to atrocitarian revolution, and in turn, I would have made Scientology into the PRF state religion. It would have been win-win.
David Miscavige has only himself to blame, sir. The cartel learns the location of the American soldiers and has the National Security Advisor cut off their communication. The cartel kill many of the American soldiers and capture the rest. The only one they don't get is Tuco Salamanca, who was on scout a mile ahead of the rest of the group. Henry Czerny and the National Security Advisor call Willem Dafoe in Colombia and tell him that it was Harrison Ford who betrayed his squad. Harrison Ford is on his way to Colombia to try to sort things out, so they tell Willem Dafoe that if he kills Harrison Ford, they'll be able to rescue the soldiers. But Willem Dafoe isn't fooled, so he and Harrison Ford join forces to rescue the surviving soldiers from the cartel. They visit Miguel Sandoval and give him evidence that Joaquin de Almeida has sold him out. Then we have a big fight. Miguel Sandoval and Joaquin de Almeida are killed, and Harrison Ford and Willem Dafoe rescue the surviving soldiers. The big fight at the end is disappointing. I could have done with less fistfights by Harrison Ford, and more of the fight being won by the elite soldiers he's there with. But I guess it's not a Harrison Ford action vehicle if he doesn't get a fistfight with Joaquin de Almeida. Back in Washington, Harrison Ford reports the illegal war to the Senate Oversight Committee and takes down Henry Czerny, the National Security Advisor, and the corrupt President John Carpenter's The Thing and his administration.
I see a lot of myself in the Miguel Sandoval character here, the head of the cartel. In Clear and Present Danger, Miguel Sandoval is a metaphor for me, your glorious leader, General Secretary F, and the cocaine he manufactures represents the utopia that I engineer for the people. But his security officer, who represents the counterrevolutionary here in the PRF, sells Miguel Sandoval out to the Americans and brings down the whole enterprise. Now there's no more cocaine for anyone. It's all an important metaphor for the people of the PRF, for atrocity without mercy will be shown to those who have not submitted to my ideology. Atrocity triumphs over mercy. You've heard it said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." But I say unto you, blessed are you when I shall revile you and persecute you, and by force ensure that you keep to the path of the revolution. For narrow is the way that leads to utopia, and there are none who find it, except for me, your glorious leader, General Secretary F.
This has been The Art of Cinema, with our glorious leader, General Secretary F. Let us maintain vigilance against the ever-looming threat of an American invasion. You are required to report any non-participation or dissent amongst your comrades. Don't forget to tune in to The Art of Cinema again next time for further discussion of films from the 1990s in your next mandatory re-education session.